Hello, everybody. Good to see you again. Here we are on the porch. I'm Dave.
And I'm
He's
Craig.
Craig. Oh, and we are so lucky today. We have some very special guests with us, Mr. John Milton Stamos.
Yes,
And the reason we got him here today is because, first of all, well, he's our age. Hey, nobody else wants to talk to us. Just kidding. No, the reason we
well,
have
the other John Stamos was busy, so we said, okay,
a reasonable facsimile.
we'll take John Milton Stamos.
Well, and I couldn't drop Stamos because John Milton is a heck of a lot more famous than John Stamos. I was still
True.
talking
Yeah,
about that's
well, you,
lost right there, and Paradise Found. Either way, I was up against it. So
Mr. Stamos has a very background as an educator, a filmmaker, a sports advocate, as a coach, numerous other activities he does, including now being a retired individual. Well, I shouldn't say retired. Let's just say he's no longer in the education profession, and he's no longer married. But that does not mean that he has died. Actually, he's been
That's right.
reborn, and I'm going to turn that over to him here for a minute to let John tell us a little bit about himself. John?
well, you touched on the recent divorce, which is now it's been almost 5 years, but it was really funny. I went to the doctor and he looks at me and he was like, John, you look really good for your age. He goes, but I got to tell you, there's a lot of people that look like you that drop dead in a second. I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I need to see what's going on inside, right? So he goes, so we got to put you in a tube. And I'm like, okay. So they put me in the tube and they pulled me out, and it was several hours later, I get this panic phone call from the doctor saying, John, you got to get down here right away. So I went there and he said, you have so much cortisol, and I never knew the word cortisol before this conversation. And he goes, you have so much cortisol coursing through your veins. He goes, you're like somebody that's been in combat for 8 years. He goes, you
Oh,
gotta meditate, you gotta eat differently, he starts all this stuff. He goes, because you could die any second. He goes, you're literally combustible. You could die any second. So I tried meditation. I was always eating right and exercising that part. So there wasn't much I could do about any of that. So when COVID hit and I was quarantined with, as Craig knows, a woman who kind of was a lot like Kathy Bates. Can I say that? Can I say that here? At least that was my feeling, was a lot misery, it was plenty of misery involved on my end anyway. So I left and I came to this incredibly wonderful place where Craig's been. It's a 55 and over apartment where it's absolutely stone cold quiet at all times. I'm the only noise. I mean, they might hear me in the street right now because there's nothing. It's super quiet, super peaceful, super nice. So after about 6 months of living here, the doctor brought me back in. He goes, we're going to put you in the tube again. I said, okay. He puts me in the tube. He takes me out. And later he says, what did you do? He goes, you are a modern medical miracle. He goes, you must have done meditate, all this stuff. I looked at him. I go, I did one thing, doc. I left. And he looked at me and he goes, what do you mean you left? And I said, I left my wife. And he went, oh, and then he went, oh, great job. And he hugged me and congratulated me. He goes, that was perfect. I said, yeah, who knew, right? So anyway.
Well, years ago, I heard that marriage causes cancer in certain individuals. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's so true. Stress can cause cancer. Okay, too much stress can cause heart attacks, liver damage, all kinds of problems you can develop from stress. And if you got a bad marriage,
yeah.
absolutely that can impact your health. I've been married
Yeah.
47 years. I'm still alive. I survived cancer. Wait, I got cancer! Oh no! Hey, but like my marriage, I survived it. So
Right.
okay, so I'm still there. But getting back to what you were talking about a minute, John, I want to ask you about something. You said now that you're back on your routine. You feel better. You're eating not so much better, but you've created an environment that's healthier.
Right.
Now, Have you started dating again? I mean, are you back on the scene?
Yeah, that's been pretty constant. Remember, I'm John Stamos. I have a hard time getting. No offense, but that kind of works in that direction. They may not be going. Although I have gone out with one girl who actually did go out with the real John Stamos once too. So she said, I've been, but she didn't say do. She said I've been with both of you before. But anyway, and I believed her. She's right now she's the current Miss Senior Universe, and she's actually an old friend, and she's right now the reigning Miss Senior Universe. But anyway, she went out with the real John Stamos once because she was.
Is it easy to get reservations, dinner reservations?
Oh yeah, things like that. Or the best is like if you're in a hotel and you call for room service, they come running up, and of course I always answer the door, and they're like rubbernecking to see if they can see him, right? And especially he's finally married, right? He's married twice, but he's finally married with a kid. He's 60 or he's not. He's 3 years younger than me, so now he's 62. But when he was 60, he finally became a father for the first time. I don't know if he's had more than one now since, but anyway, no, he was, a traveling.
How about you? You got children?
A traveling man too. Let's put it that way.
You got kids? You got kids, John?
I do. I have 3 grown. All have college degrees. All have people and houses. And
what do they think of all this with you?
The 2 that were out here, I've one in Colorado, and the 2 that were here. The one in Colorado was completely fine and nonplussed, and the 2 here were kind of angry. It doesn't matter even if they're older; they see you a different way for a while, but eventually they were fine. Probably within 6 months or a year. But they're so into their own lives, and they're adults, and they're on to other things. So everybody's fine now. I even get along with my ex a lot better now, as everybody always says. I get along with her a lot better now than then. We're fine now. Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
It's not, it's pleasant enough. So,
we did a film. You folks know we do movies. I bring that up every now and again. And one of the films we did, Love in Quarantine, deals with exactly that issue. How you can love somebody, but if you're around them on a constant basis,
right,
those little idiosyncrasies, those pet peeves, those things that just grind on you daily, drive you nuts and drive you apart. Yeah. And sometimes that distance, because we are individuals, we're still individuals.
Yeah. I mean, familiarity breeds contempt. I mean, I just came out of a relationship where I'd only been out with a woman for 80 days, but we dated 34 times in that 80 days. And that did us both in. So I was ready to break up with her the day before she broke up with me. I was even telling my friend Carnes, who you both know, we used Steve's car in the first movie you did, the Lexus. My other friend was going to let her use his Mercedes, but you said, no, we're going to put a camera rack on the hood. He was like, oh, but Steve's like, fine, it's sweet. Put the camera rack on my car. But anyway, so he told me the other day that, where were we going with this? I'm sorry, I lost track.
Oh, you're talking about how you split up, about this girl you've been with for 30, all these dates inside a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, that turns into familiarity breeds contempt right there. I mean, it does. Familiarity can breed contempt. And so I told him, I said, I'm ready to break up. And he goes, give it one more. Oh, that's what I was going to say. He said, give it one more chance, John. The next day I took her, we went and played golf. I took her out to lunch. And then we were just kind of looking at each other over the table. And she said something. And I said, you know what? I think we're done here. She goes, yeah, we really are. So I took her home, and it was fun. I bought her golf clubs. I said, keep the clubs. Think of me when you play, And so it ended the right way. But it really was almost completely mutual.
So why do you think that happens at our age?
Well, I think in her case, more so than mine, is that she had lived by herself for a long, long time. And so she, her husband died 9 years ago. And so she had some relationships along the way. But I really think in her case, they've done all kinds of psychological studies where if you're by yourself for an extended period of time, you kind of start liking, especially females, they like their nest. And they want you to come to the nest and visit it, but they don't want you in their nest, right? Because they get uncomfortable.
Don't use the towels.
Yes, there's all these rules start happening. And so then you just kind of get pushed away. They psychologically can push you away. And she did. I mean, she succeeded. And so I think she's, headed towards probably anything can happen.
Well, let me ask you a question. In that context, what I'm drawing, just objectively hearing what you're saying, is she wanted you, but not all of you.
Right.
She wanted
Or
parts
this
of
would
you.
be,
Well, what parts of you do you think she wanted most?
well, Carnes we were talking today on our walk, and he said his theory was she probably just wanted a gigolo. She wanted
Uh-huh.
a guy who would show up every time, and it's like, and then when I'm done, you can go away, and I'll have you back whenever I want.
So she
So
wanted
kind
you from the neck down.
yeah, exactly. And then they want you to like sort of service them in a way, and then they're done with you in a way. Away you go. I'm bored with you now. But it's like that old thing, like the cat with the ball and the string, and as soon as the cat catches the ball off the string, it's not interested in the ball anymore. It kicks it to the wall. So apparently
John,
I didn't
So
stay.
what you're telling me?
John, hold on,
Go ahead,
David.
Craig.
Hold on 1 second. Little off topic. Could I get her name and number from you?
No, that's
Because I'm John. I'm having some connective issues here on my end. I'm trying to find fault. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you just keep freezing.
Yeah, I have some issue. See, I'm kind of like with David. I think that's kind of almost like the best of all worlds. From standpoint, I've been single for a good period of time, right?
right.
I as an only child, I like my space. Like you're talking 80 days, 30 dates, and all that. It's like, whoa, slow down. But
Mhm.
you have an independent woman. I'm doing my thing and all this. I mean, I don't need to see you, every other day stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you're
I want to get back
you're
to.
more of a. Go ahead, David.
No, go ahead. I
But
don't want to
you're
lose my
more
train
of
of
a.
thought.
But you strike me more like a relationship. Yeah, I think I like David asked you a question. What is it that you're looking for?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because Carnes asked me that last week, right? He's my closest friend. And he said, I've known you for a long time and I've been through all these things with you because he's met many of these people. But I said, and it's kind of true at this point in my life, I'm like when I was in high school, because I feel like I'm getting my second wind. I'm very healthy. I'm working out all the time. I feel good, even though I am old. Using creams now to get rid of it because I went out with this girl and I'm still seeing her right now. She's a music teacher, but when we first went out,
Creams are okay.
she,
Ointments, not so much.
but
Ointments,
she
no. Creams are okay.
But she looked absolutely gorgeous. And when I first met her, I was like, oh my God, your skin is so good. And so she goes, oh, well, start using this, whatever. So anyway, I was into creams before, but not as acutely as I'm starting to be now because she got me squared away. They do get us squared away in different ways. So
Dude,
anyway,
I don't want to hear about creams.
yeah, facial cream, all these creams. But anyway, creams help. So in the case of where were we going again?
I wanted to ask you something.
Yeah, go ahead.
You had commented earlier, and you made this analogy that this image. I'm an image guy. We make films, right? But anyway, you said about the cat.
I'm sorry.
About the cat playing with the yarn of balls. So what I derived from that was that what you were telling me was that this lady, after she got tired of playing with your balls, she kicked you to the side.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's
okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. Okay.
There was something I didn't. I got too close because you have to stay in mystery. You have to stay an enigma. You have to be something they can't really reach or figure out. And as long as they're still trying to reach and figure you out, then you're.
So would you recommend?
In her case, she thought she figured me out, but she really didn't. It was really funny.
Would you recommend not having sexual relationships so early in the relationship?
I don't know, David. I'd have to think about that because I've had it different ways that way. I mean, there's been times where it happened on the first date, and then there's other times where it happened a little later or whatever. Let's go back to the other. Let me think. I have to think about that one, David. I really
the ball of yarn and your balls and kick.
No. The one that Craig said. What are you looking for? What is it? What are you searching for here? And my answer is with a lot of thought because I didn't know how to answer him, and I do know what my answer is now. I'm not looking for another marriage. I failed at marriage twice. It wasn't great for me either time, short and long, 4.5 years and 31 years. I had the full catastrophe the second time. That's what Zorba the Greek calls it. Yes, I did the full catastrophe. I did the full catastrophe. I did the playhouse and got dinged, but it's okay. He's a good boy. But so I'm not looking to do the ring thing. And I'm also not necessarily, happy about cohabitation or living with some. I like being in my own space. They're comfortable in their space. And we sort of like see each other in those spaces visiting. But it's more like when you're in high school, I'm always looking for a steady because I don't like being on online dating. Online dating is torturous and it's maddening. Right now I have 5 matches and they're in various different ways of being matched, which we can talk about later if you're interested to know what that's like. But there's 5 different women right now.
I do. I want to know. I want to know.
All right. Okay. I'll tell you that in a second. So
we'll get to that.
I'm looking for my next steady. Okay. Because since I've been divorced, I had a 9-month who you met. We went to dinner. Remember, she yelled and screamed at me because I cooked the lamb badly on the barbecue. You remember that? So you guys ate the steak. Never did lamb on a bar. Anyway, you met her. Then
that was fun. That was fun, John.
Then I had one for 22 months, almost 2 years. But that one went down the drain because, quite frankly, she was draining me because she had 3 kids in college. And there was so much involved in that. And I went into it thinking, well, they're in college. My kids were not needy in college age. They were hardly around. But her kids were very needy, very glommy. And then she kind of dumped them on me. And so I'm like, you know what? This was 10 years ago for me. I'm out of this phase of life. So I had to kind of tell her, baby, this isn't working for me. So that was just too much. And then the one I just told you about, that one, I did a 6-weeker in between, but you can't really count 6 weeks. That's a steady. And in 8 weeks is kind of a steady. So I'm okay with steadies. And so one of these 5 that I'm currently involved with in different levels, I hope becomes a steady, so that I don't have to be online dating. Online dating is torture because there's so many bad experiences. For every good experience, there's 4 or 5 bad ones. But anyway, what were you going to say, Craig?
Now, you before we went live, you said you're on 9 or 10 dating apps.
No, I'm only on 1, man.
No, I'm kidding. No, you're talking about bad experiences. If you had to, let's say, pick one of the worst, is there one like just stands out like, oh my, that you're not going to believe?
It's hard because, again, we're talking about different layers of bad. Okay. The worst I had, because she usually when you meet a person for the first time, it's usually a cup of coffee or a drink. And usually you keep it to half an hour, meet and greet, goodbye. Well, this lady, her pictures were absolutely unbelievably knock dead gorgeous. The pictures, mind you. And so, and I won't tell you what her name is or what her handle was or whatever. I don't really know I won't say that part of it, but I thought she was going to be smoking hot because usually I've been pretty lucky. I have very little, most of the time, believe it or not, they're close to what they look like in the pictures. We're close enough for rock and roll. You're like, okay, I'm going to give you a little grace here. We're all getting old. So you expect there to be a grace level to it. But one time I'm sitting there and she wanted to we decided to have dinner the first time. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. She's going to probably be really hot. She walked in and it was it was a high top table restaurant. It's a really good Mexican restaurant close by here. Very good. Yeah. It's called Exclusive. Taquiera Exclusive. It's a hard name to say, but Taquiera Exclusive. Easier for David. But it's a nice place.
I don't know how to take that.
I've any dates there. But I was sitting at a high top table waiting for her to show up. And she showed up and I was looking, and then she sat in the chair and I'm looking across the table and I'm looking at Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies. I'm like, oh my, I'm out to dinner with Granny, right? And she immediately starts saying, oh, so nice to meet her. And I'm like, we're so not in the right lane here. This is so much not a match. This is fraud. Okay. And now because I was young and dumb a few years ago when I started doing this, I would have got up and left today because it was just flat fraud. And I'm not rude like some guys did who like they say, I'll show them their picture and say, this is not you. I'm not that guy. I'm not mean. I just sat there and go, okay, I'll be a gentleman with Granny for 45 minutes. I fed her and then gave her the bums rush and away we went. But that was a bad one, but only because it was so different from what I expected.
So let me ask you this: instead
And I was
of
funny because I was a kind of expensive dinner that I showed this old lady to.
well, yeah, you're making an investment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was out.
I mean, or you've just taken on an expense.
Yeah.
What about? I mean, you're active. I mean, you go to the gym, you go
Right.
shopping. I mean, just out in day-to-day life. I mean, don't you meet women that way? Why?
Well,
I don't know why.
the gym, I've been going to the gym for 47 years, and I've rarely, if ever, first of all, it's a faux pas for a guy to actually talk to a woman who's working out. My daughter told me, she goes, Dad, don't ever do that. You'll be a creeper. She's telling me that even now, but I never did do that. Even at LA Fitness, when you and I were there for 20 years, I only had a couple conversations with women in 20 years at that gym. I was there every day. And both of them talked to me first. Now, neither one of them would I have been interested in, but one said, "You want a piece of gum?" They're trying to start a conversation. So it happened twice the wrong way, and I was polite, but I wasn't at either time. But women, when they go to the gym, it's not for that. They're there to work out. They don't like to be bothered. I've even seen some just go off on guys and say, "Look, have a nice workout and let me have mine." It's kind of a rude thing to do. So you're not going to meet them at the gym. You're not going to, if you're, some people, oh, why don't you meet him at church? It's like, I don't go to church to check out. I go to church to be humble and worshipful and say, I'm sorry. I don't go there to check out, the other sex. It's not what church is set up for. So then the bars, you could end up with an STD. And thanks be to God, I've never been dinged, and I think it's because I've never been a barfly, because you can get a lot more than you bargain for when you go in those places too. So, no, as far as meeting at a grocery store, I've never been, I haven't had that experience. It'd be nice. I'd love for it to like serendipitously happen like that, because then I wouldn't be online. But these days, 60% of the couples out there met online. It's now more than half.
Wow.
So,
I'm interested in something. Listening to the two of you, because you're both single and Craig's been longer, and listening to some of the comments Craig's made, like the investment comment he made, and some of the other things you've discussed, and how you look at women. What I keep not hearing, and the question was asked, what are you looking for? And I'd asked it initially. Craig followed it up again, and we asked it again. And I think the real issue there is, are you looking for a relationship, love, or are you just looking for a friendship with, extras? I mean, I understand it. Don't get me wrong, and because love is a different commitment, if that's what you're looking for.
well, it's an interesting question, David. I'm glad you asked it. But there's a chemical. It's called PEA. It's like this. It's a long word. You could look it up. It's called the love. It's a love PEA, and it starts with it. It's engendered in your eyes. You see a person, and your heart goes pitter pat. When you're a kid, it was here and gone. You could pull up at a stop sign, look at a girl across, then their car pulls off, and your chest is going like this, and because the PEA is out of control when you're younger. But as you're older, that chemical, like everything else, slows way down. So I don't really have a chemical reaction, which is on the way to love, by the way, because it starts with PEA and then it develops from there. You talk to the person, you start seeing the person, you spend time.
Do you think that's infatuation, though, and not love?
Yeah, it starts with infatuation. Yes, it starts with infatuation.
Because in love is a forgiving state of mind.
Right. Exactly.
For me, love is about tolerance and acceptance, patience, and respect.
Exactly.
So,
and that's kind of, at this point, for me, it's a very romantic version of love, which, quite frankly, if it ever happens, I would, of course, totally embrace that. I would hope that I would hope that I do find a heart of gold that is the person you described. But I'm more
in the meantime,
in the realistic world, not the romantic. Realistically, I think, I have a 100% chance of not making it work because I've had a 100%.
Well, my parents both told me.
I can tell you a million ways to fail. How to succeed, I haven't found that yet. It would be nice, I'm worse than the Chicago White Sox.
Well, I've been married 3 times. I've been married 3 times, twice to the same woman.
Mm.
Okay, first time for 13 months.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, it lasted a whole 13 months. And now I've been married 47 years. We got married second time, my wife and I, in church. First time we had a hippie wedding out at my favorite park up in the hills. And
Mhm.
then the second time, I actually married her in church because we'd been together like 10 years, and that was my
Wasn't
promise.
Chatsworth Park, was it?
It was Elm Rock Park in East San Jose. It's one of the
Oh,
oldest parks
San
in
Jose.
Western
Oh,
United States.
that's
Yeah,
beautiful up there. That is a
oh,
beautiful
it's
park.
beautiful up there. I even painted a picture of the area where we got married. It's a gazebo area out in the middle of the park. It's really nice. But
That's
anyway, point
yeah,
being,
happened for you. That's great. I'm
well,
happy.
well. But I want to get back to I was talking about what you're looking for,
Uh,
because at my age right now, I love my wife. I love my
mhm.
family. But if I wasn't married to her, I doubt very seriously I'd be looking for this kind of a relationship.
uh,
I don't think I would,
yeah, I mean, if
because
it happens, it happens. I mean, I thought it for a while, the 22-monther, we were heading in that sort of that direction, but then just too many other elements. Remember, go back to what we started the discussion with. Familiarity breeds contempt, you know. So you
amen.
contemptuous over time, and then it
Hey,
just ends in a
made it
way.
feel about it.
Because then well, they're treating you like you're married, but you're not married, and you're sitting there going, and they're having you raise their kids again. It's like, no, I already raised mine; they're grown and gone, and I didn't ask you to do anything with them. You know, you're asking too much. And they had a father who was totally in the picture. He wasn't like she had married a deadbeat dad who wasn't in the picture. The guy was a good guy. We got along well, and so anyway. But there's a million ways to fail. Just ask me.
So what else do you do, John?
Right now, my mother was an artist and a painter, and she painted. Craig was at their house a year ago summer, so he's seen the stuff in her house, and she taught for
Yeah.
40 years. And it
Nice.
was really weird. It was about a month and a half ago. I was at her house. She goes, "Hey, John, I want to show you what I'm working on." And she, she's 89 years old, but it reminded me, right, kind of like Grandma Moses, because I saw her paintings and I was like, "Oh my God, Mom! I've been watching you paint since I was a small child. I mean, I've seen her paint my entire life, right? I'm 65 years old." And I said, "I don't think you've ever been better than what you're doing right now. I mean, it's just exploded off the canvas, these 4 pictures that she showed me that she'd recently done." And I was like taken aback by it. And I was like, oh my God. And no one in our family has been handed this baton. And you're not going to be here forever. I was saying this to myself, right? And tell her that. But I was like, can you teach me how to paint, Mom? Because I want to, because I kind of wanted to take that with me from her so that at least one of us was doing applied arts because she's so good at it. And she said, of course. You're going to have to learn how to draw first. She goes, it'll take about 6 months of drawing. So I'm looking at my drawings over there. They're all piled up because I've been drawing like mad because I want to paint. And I told Craig this, and he laughed and said, "You have the wrong teacher. I've already got my paints and canvas, and I'm going at it. You don't have to learn to draw first." And I know, David, you've been painting forever. Would you espouse to what she said, or what Craig's learned in terms of applied?
I espouse to what works for anybody
Uh,
individually. And your mom's probably already an artist, a sketch artist, and she
Yeah.
probably had that gift. I didn't. I couldn't draw worth shit.
uh,
I could generally draw stuff that I knew what I wanted it to look like. But
mhm.
painting and drawing, apples and oranges in my mind.
Okay,
Um,
so you didn't worry about drawing because she's saying you have to draw on the canvas, then you'll paint
well,
like.
I do draw the stuff on canvas.
Uh-huh.
But think of a landscape for just a quick minute. What do you got? Some mountains in the background,
Mm-hmm.
right? All right. You got some trees. You got a river, right? I mean, some rocks, right? Some shading. Yeah, there you go, forest, right? I mean, I'm making light of it, but as you know, in a practical sense, and Craig as well, that's what it amounts to. I'm not sitting there and drawing out something beautiful with a pencil and
Mm-hmm.
doing all. No, man, I know people that do that. I'm always amazed, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And your mom has that gift, power to her, because it'll
Yeah.
make her a better painter, no doubt.
Well, and I want to get to the canvas and the paint, and so I have to be a good student and do what she tells me. It's just like when we
Yeah.
started acting, because it was the same thing. I mean, I'm sure Craig was lucky. He didn't lucky in a sense that he didn't have to do what we did and, pick apples off a tree and all those things that they used to make us do in those stage acting classes, which in the beginning seemed so odd and weird and totally different. So I'm used to, like, I guess, going into various different facets, knowing nothing and saying, okay, I'm a blank slate. I'm a wet lump of clay here. I'll do it, what you're telling me to do, so that I can then do what you're doing, if that makes sense.
No, it does. But absolutely, and I've approached art many ways, different ways. But you only learn to ride a horse by getting on the horse.
Right.
I don't care how much you read about that. You ain't never going to do it. So for me, I was really fascinated by painting. My daughter's an artist. I have other people in my family that are just gifted artists, a brother and some nephews and whatnot. And I always thought it was fascinating, but I couldn't. And one day my daughter gave me this small little board and some cheap paints and brushes. And because I said I had this idea about painting a scene, and I did it all backwards. Because I didn't realize that there was a process. I didn't understand that, Since then, of course, I kind of paid attention and said, oh, okay. I actually saw on TV one guy named Jerry Yarnell, and I saw him on TV, and he was painting, and the guy with my kind of painting, he was sloppy and messy and just kind of fast about it all, and didn't take it serious, and he was creating stuff, wham, bam, and I was like, whoa, I was blown away. Yeah. So I went and bought me a canvas and stuff, and I just started painting and kind of thinking about it, but I love it. It focuses my mind. It relaxes me. I'll be painting, and next thing I know, an hour and a half has gone by, and I didn't realize it. Put on some nice music. When I was into drinking a little bit more, I'd always have a glass of wine, put on some nice jazz, and I just love the whole feeling of it. I don't even know. There's a psychology to it. I can't describe it. Craig knows it.
You're a God in the machine. You're doing what God does. You're creating something.
I love that. Yeah, right on, brother. That's exactly what I've always said. Craig and I talk about that a lot. We're made in God's image. We're made to create.
Right.
That's one of our purposes.
And one of the said, which is what I'm learning with the drawing, even though I know it now and I'm hearing you guys, and I'm glad I don't necessarily have to be a great person drawing to be able to paint something. But what she's teaching me is highlighting and shades and shadows, keeping that in the picture. Because she would show me her paintings too, and she'd say, well, what do you see here? I said, well, it looks like it's kind of it's coming off the can. It seems real. And she goes, that's from shades, from showing the shadows in the images. And so that's what I'm learning how to draw is highlighting. Like for instance, I'm looking at Alexa right now. And if I was drawing Alexa, I would be drawing her in such a way that there's a highlight that I circle and I don't put anything in that highlight. And then I put the shadows around, but I didn't know this stuff. So that's where I'm at. I mean, it's embryonic.
No, that's cool. That's cool. And something contrastingly, in painting, you create that by going from dark to light with your paint. That's how you create that depth you're talking about now. Okay. And with distance to create the same thing, you go the opposite, from light in the distance to dark being up front. So it's exact opposite to create distance as opposed to what we would call dimension, right? The depth within the image that you're painting itself, whether it's a tree or a flower, doesn't matter what the hell it is, a rock, right? So, but your mom is so right. If you can learn to draw first, you certainly will have a better understanding of what you're doing, because that is it. She's showing you the 2 and 3 dimensions perspectives, and that's something you must learn, for painting as well, no matter what. So I love doing it. I'm no expert at painting, man, and I don't even like to show myself next to people. I'm like, well, I see people's stuff. Amazing, just amazing. And I don't know how they do it. I got a general understanding.
Well, I think it's interesting because, having seen her paint my entire life, some of her stuff I'll look at and go, I don't want to tell her. You know, like I have one of her paintings that I'm looking at right now on my wall. That I'm looking at one of her on my right wall. I have one my daughter did, because my daughter got into this as well, but hers is more.
Nice.
But I actually like my daughter's a lot. My mother's is okay, but it's not. I mean, it just like anything. You guys are doing movies. It's like some of them succeed in scenes or pieces of it, higher or lesser degree, and it's the same with painting. It's like some of her paintings, like I said, the last 4 she did, it really grabbed my attention. I was like, oh my God, Mom, you just went over some place in your brain creatively that I've never seen you go before, you know, compared to other things. And I think that's what artists do, whether it's movies or painting or whatever. You just do the work and it's there. The muses are talking to you and you're acting on it. And we don't know if it's going to be good, bad, different. We're just throwing it out there to see what the cat will lick up, right?
Hey, and then sometimes there's scene 89. Craig, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Actually, that would be, you're close, scene 89.
Yeah.
89. Close enough. 89.
Yeah.
Yeah, 89.
Apparently,
Yeah, it was horrible. Well, we won't talk about that, but it's been interesting. It sounds to me, John, that you got a very full and active life. You do a lot of great things.
Yeah, today was great. Golf early on Mondays and Wednesdays. It's hot yoga at 6 in the morning. You know, so for about 4 mornings a week, I'm either playing golf or yoga. Then I go to the gym. Then I go for a walk or walk gym. Today was gym walk. So yeah, I mean, I've done a lot. You guys were my fourth thing, but it was a perfect thing to do. I love
That's great, man.
Well, we loved talking to you today here on the porch. We had a good time. You're very interesting. Keep at it.
I see Craig from time to time, and we talk and text. But it was really nice seeing you again, David.
Oh, thanks. It was good seeing you. You know what we should do? We should have another session real quickly where we talk about painting. Bring on some of your paintings, your mom's paintings.
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
talk about some of the things we do.
Oh,
okay?
then I should actually go to her house. I could be in her house and we could do that. Yeah.
Let's do that. That'd be great.
I'll take my iPad there and we can do that.
Hey, would your mom like to participate?
But maybe yeah, you'd probably want to.
That'd be great. What do you think, Craig?
That'd be a good idea.
Okay. Let's plan on that. Let's plan on that.
I'll say that.
Okay. Sounds great. It's been interesting. It's been good. Right on. It's been good to everybody out there. Remember, be good to each other. And we will see you next time right here. We're at Craig.
Thank you so much for having me.
On the porch.
On the porch. You're welcome, John. Thanks
Bye.
for being here with us.
So, take care.
Good seeing you, man.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.